Good evening, Brendan. Here's your machine, the Breville Barista Express BES870. As you saw in the photos, this is in pretty good condition. Actually, it's one of my cleaner used machines. Very, very good condition all around. Obviously being used, does have a few light scratches on the front. Nothing too bad. Usually machines have dents like around here, around the back panel, as you bang the cups or the portafilter when using the machine, but this one doesn't have any dents, it looks like. So that's very good. Also, I've just finished doing the cleaning and the service, so the machine is like new on the inside as well. So that's very, very good. Didn't really have to do many major repairs. So we're ready to make a coffee. Usually when you turn it on, it'll take about a minute for the boiler to reach temperature, and you'll see the buttons light up when it's ready to go. So that when the buttons light up, that means the boiler is at temperature, but it doesn't necessarily mean that everything else is hot. So your cups need to be hot, your portafilter handle needs to be hot, and the grip head. So to warm those up, you can either let the machine on for like 10 or 20 minutes, or what I like to do, you can run a blank shot. So a blank shot, just run some hot water, no coffee in the handle of course, just hot water, just warm things up and also give it a bit of a clean. So I like to do that with a double button. I do that with pretty much every machine, even the dual boiler machines. It should stop right at the edge. There we go. So shot timer is working fine, and I've just burnt my fingers. Anyway, we're just gonna make an espresso. So testing the grinder, obviously tamping, and the shot timer. We won't be using the steamer. I'm going to turn it on just to show you that the steamer works fine. And like I said, if you have any issues within the first month of usage, just bring it back to me. Okay, so when you do the blank shot, obviously your portafilter will be wet. You want it to be dry before you grind the coffee, so that when the coffee comes down from the grinder, it doesn't clump up or lose its flavors by touching the water. So I'm going to use my scale to measure the input and the output. Don't necessarily need a scale, but what matters is that you get a good taste when making a coffee, and usually by following some recipes you can achieve that. In my case, I'll be using a 2:1 ratio recipe. So for every gram I grind, I want to get 2 grams out in 30 seconds, or 20 to 30 seconds is the rule. So reset my scale. I'm going to put out grind size number 4. It looks like it's the right ballpark of a grind size just by looking at it. The only way to know is to make a coffee. So grind size number 4, grind amount, I'll leave it at 12 o'clock position here. I'll leave the filter size on single. Even though we're using the double basket, this double basket takes 18 grams of coffee. But I like to keep it on single on the selector here, because if I put it on double and grind the full amount, it'll just spill over sometimes. So I'd like to prevent spilling by doing it half-half. That was quick. Let's see. That is 7.5, so we'll have to go a bit quicker. So 7.5, we want it to be 9 because we're doing it twice, right? So twice would be 18. So that's only 7.5. I'm going to top it up by holding. And that's 9 grams, so I'm going to just do a lazy tamp there. Oops. Grind again. Let's see the 2 o'clock position. Hopefully it gives us closer to 9 grams. It looks like it. Looks like yeah, it's 17.6. I think it's close enough to 18 that you usually would just make this and proceed. But I guess if this would give us 7.5 and this gives us 8.5, I guess, then 3 o'clock would give us 9, just by deduction and extrapolation. So leave it at the 3 o'clock position. It should give you 9 grams per click, but it'll just always depend on the bean age, the bean type, and the grind size. So try these settings, but I'm not saying that these will work exactly for you. Your mileage may vary, but yeah, on these with these beans on these settings of ground size number 4, I'm getting about 8.5 grams at 2 o'clock position. Maybe at 3 o'clock we'll get 9 grams. And that should be 18 grams. It is. So once you've got the full 18 grams in here, spread around the coffee with your finger or your palm, just so that when you tamp it, it's an even pressure all around. Press it nice and firm. Make sure you've got, like I said, even pressure all around the puck. Make sure it's level, and then you'll notice that the tamper goes this deep. So if you look at this silver part, it's like a little guide that you can follow. If I have the correct dose, I will have the silver part disappear when I'm tamping. So it's like the right depth. It's the same as the razor tool that they have, which is like this tool that scrapes off the excess. It's exactly the same as this depth. So if you're in a hurry, if you don't, or if you don't have a scale, just look at the depth of the tamper. If it's this deep, then you've got the correct quantity. Clean the edges before you lock it in, and then lock it in. So I'm just going to put it in the middle. No need to go all the way to the right, especially because the rubber seal is fairly fresh on this machine. Now that my cup is nice and hot, my coffee will be hot as well. I'm going to get rid of this water. Again, just like the input, I want to measure the output, and we want to double it. So 18 times 2, we want 36 grams in here. The machine comes programmed fairly long, in my opinion, so too long, in my opinion. So if you press the double button now, you'll probably get closer to 60 grams of coffee. We want it to be closer to like 35 to 40. Like I said, because the 36 is a 2-to-1 ratio. If we get 36 grams here, that's double of what we put in. So if we get between 35 and 40, I'm happy. And that should take between 20 to 30 seconds. I'll just say 25 seconds, just to be in the middle. So hopefully we should get this right. If it's too runny, it's usually because the beans are old, the grind size is too large, or because I'm not putting enough coffee in the basket. So we've got one of those variables ticked off, which is the quantity. Now it's just a matter of the grind size that we have to do. My beans aren't the freshest in the world, but they should do the trick, hopefully. So to program the buttons, you want to press program, and the button you want to program, in this case the double, will start making coffee, and I'll stop it when I'm happy with the quantity. Okay, I'm going to time it as well. So we've got perfect pressure, maybe a bit too much, but coffee's coming out just fine. We're at 16 seconds now, and looking very, very nice. And I'm going to stop it when it's at the right level. So that was 30 seconds. This usually is about 35-40 grams when it's halfway through the shot glass. That took 30 seconds, so pretty good. Just within that range that I was saying, so between 20 and 30 seconds. The pressure gauge does have a grey zone, which you usually follow. So anywhere from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock is the espresso range. Ideally, your shots should be like between 11 o'clock and 12 o'clock, I would say. 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock. So we got 1 o'clock in this case. Not too bad. And that was 37. Just put it closer to the scale. It's a bit dirty, sorry about that, but that's 37 grams, which is pretty much what we wanted. We wanted 36, so that's pretty good. Good amount of crema. That's a good shot, I would say. I'm not usually an espresso kind of person, but if I were, I would enjoy that shot right now. Sadly, it's 10 o'clock at night, and I'm going to have to put it in the fridge to make iced coffee some other day. Yeah, that's espresso on the Barista Express. If the shot was coming too quickly, so if we got the 37 grams, or 36, if we got 36 grams in 10 seconds, that just tells us that the beans are too old, or the grind size is too large, or a combination of those two. Vice versa, if it's too slow, maybe it's because you overpack the portafilter with more than 18 grams. But if it's too slow, you can also indicate that it's very fine on the grind size selector here, or that the you can't have beans that are too fresh, so that's not even a factor. So yeah, it's if the pressure is way too high, quantity is too large, or grind size too fine. Just think of it as physics, just water going through small particles. If they're finer, they're just more compacted, and it's harder for water to go through. So after the shot, knock it out. Do another blank shot to rinse this time. Just like that, 2 birds, 1 stone. You're cleaning the shower screen, you're rinsing the portafilter in one go. And if you want to be extra nice to your machine, grab a tissue. In this case, I've got this tissue. And wipe the rubber and the shower screen on top. Sometimes there's a bit of coffee grounds that sneak up there and stay there even after flushing with the hot water, like I just did. So wiping them every now and then is a good idea. Hot water spout you've got here if you wanted to do a long black coffee, or in to warm up the cups or tea bags or whatever. And steam. Turn it on, give it 10 seconds, it'll start steaming. With the technique, if it's your first coffee machine, you'll have to learn. It's all about the angle and the depth of the wand within the milk. So once you hear the pumping gauge, that's essentially full pressure. There we go, pretty strong steam. When you're done, it'll give you about 5 seconds before it goes back to espresso mode. You see the buttons light up. When the buttons are on, it's ready to make another coffee. So very smart. This machine is pretty smart. It'll remind you when to do the cleaning, when to do the descale. And yeah, it auto cools down, auto purges on its own. I think you'll love it. And yeah, as you saw, it's not too hard to use and make a good coffee on. So that's pretty much, I got a good coffee just from my first try. So if you leave these settings on, you probably will be getting a good coffee as well, depending on your beans. Hope you've enjoyed this video, hope it's been helpful, and I'll see you tomorrow morning. I know you're on the plane now, so you'll not watch the video now. But yeah, see you in the morning. And if you have any questions ever about the machine or any concerns, please don't hesitate. See you.